Morning, it's December the 5th. It's -21 outside today, so I thought we'd better get on and do this gearbox here. Now there is a reason why I'm up so tall. It's not because I've put high heels on or something daft like that. It's because when I do the gearbox for the shimming, you can see I've got quite a tall stand here. The reason for that is the input shafts have to be long enough. Well, I've got to have enough space for the input shaft for a TD5, which is quite long, or a V8. So I have to have this up here. So what we're going to do today, wait a minute, where are we? We're going to put the shafts in here that I've already built up, and then we're going to do some shimming. I did say shimming, not rimming. We don't do any of that here. Anyway, I've already got the shafts built up, but I'm going to show you, we've done that before, but I'm going to show you that on a different video. I think I'll do a different compilation of how you take the bearings off, because we've got one here, and could be interesting. I'll show you how to get them off without destroying them. So we've got to put not as much of a preload, but we've got to calculate the correct shimming. What we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of an experiment, because as usual what I like to do is use the old shims as a guide and see where we are, because this is why the box is upside down here. We can drop the gears, the lay shaft and the main shaft in, and then put the cover on and tighten it down, and then we can judge what the clearance is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try and measure them, but I'm going to do them very much by eye or hand rather than by eye. Well, that would be clever to do, wouldn't it? And see what the actual should feel like, and then once we get that right, I'll put a string gauge around it and we'll pull it and see how much resistance there is. The bearings should not really have a preload on them, because it'll be too tight. So if a bearing is too tight, it'll get too hot. If it's too loose, it can be noisy. So you want that happy medium. They are a bit tricky to do, but not impossible. So let's get it set up. Now what we're going to do is just do one shaft at a time. I've done both at the same time. I found out doing just individual shafts is a lot easier. So I don't know how the hell I'm going to film this, because I can't get my camera up high enough. We'll see. But first of all, we're going to do the lay shaft, which is here, and it's already got the bearings on. I've already got the shim and the original bearing here. I always like to tie wrap them together. So we're going to put this shim into the cover with the new bearing race on. Alright, let's get that done. Switched off. So what I've got the lay shaft in with the original shim, and I've also got some Allen bolts holding this cover down. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts holding it down, so it's all nice and even. And also the dowels, I ran it through the wire brush and cleaned them up so they're a nice smooth fit. You must make sure they're a nice smooth fit, and that will keep that casing located. Now, never mix the casings up. They always come in a machine matched pair. Don't think you can take one from another. It doesn't work like that, alright? So just be warned. Now, I've got that tightened down. What does the shaft feel like? Feels absolutely fantastic. I wish you could come here and feel my shaft. It feels great. You know something? I'm not even going to shim it. I'm going to leave that original shimming. I am. There's no end float on it. And remember, these are new bearings, so they will settle down a little bit. But just for you, I'm going to put a spring balance around that and try and find out how much tension it needs to pull it. This is really awkward with the camera so high, because I can't reach the button to switch the bloody thing on and off. So what I've done is I've wrapped a bit of string around the shaft, and I've got my suitcase measuring device. Turn it on, and we are on kilograms. whatever they are, and we put a piece of string through, and I've wrapped the string round the shaft. I'm going to just make sure that's 0 and pull it. That is 0.8 of a kilo. 0.5 when it's moving. So it needs, oh, it's getting even better now. Between 0.5 and 0.8 of it. Wait a minute, let's do it again. Between 0.4 and 0.5 of a kilo to turn it. Now, if it was too tight, you know, if the shim was too tight, it would be, you know, like way over maybe 2-3 kilos, which is way too much. But if it was all slack, well, it wouldn't even make a reading, you know. But that's pretty damn good. So that saved us a lot of time, hasn't it? Yeah, look at that. You know, I amaze myself sometimes. Yeah. I can't tell you how good that feels. Honestly, I'm going crazy. Right, let's set up and do the other piece. Now, when we put the main shaft in, we don't put this. There's no need to put the synchronizer ring on, the balk ring or whatever you want to call it, the synchro ring. There's no need to put that on the end because we're going to have to take it to bits anyway to assemble this. So that's what we're going to do. Now, with the cover off, we're going to take the bearing, put a cable tie around it and fasten it together so we don't lose it. Put it back in the Ashcroft box. And the next one we're going to do is the main shaft here. So I've kept them together, and with a bit of luck it should be the same. Now, I know that we were sent a shim kit, but we don't know. But the shaft in here is a genuine shaft that we're going to be putting in, and we've got genuine Timken bearings in. We haven't got Chinesey type things. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it should be good, and that'll save us a lot of time. Right, where was I? I had to go and fix a couple of punches, which ended up with a beer or two, and now I've got all lost. So what I've done is, I've put the main shaft in with the original shim, alright? And what does it feel like? It feels lovely. It feels really, really nice. It just feels really nice. You can't feel any end float, but what we're going to do now is take the camera off and look at a dial gauge that I've set up on the input shaft. I hope, without falling off this box. Right, I've set this gauge up here. I'll just adjust it to 0. Thereabouts. Now I've got it on the shaft. Watch how much plays on the shaft. Doesn't really go back to 0, does it? I mean, it might have been right first time. This is an inch. This is in inches, so it's got about 5/1000 of an inch loose on there. Now, this mag mount is attached to the frame here, and so it's staying together. But if it was really tight, we wouldn't be able to do that. Interesting. I've got another experiment coming up. Just hold on. Now, the thinnest shim in the Ashcroft kit is 0.05 of a millimetre. The little thin one here. That's the thinnest one. Now, I wonder what would happen if we put that in. But first of all, let's test this with the spring balance to see the amount of force needed, or pounds or kilograms needed, to turn this shaft on a standard bearing. Alright, are you ready? Gosh, it's exciting, isn't it? Very exciting Friday afternoon. Things I do for you. Right, so we're on 0 there. You have to believe me. Right, let's pull it. Oh, bloody string slipping. Wait a minute. Let's try it again. Set it to 0. God, it's so sensitive, this thing. So let's pull it. And we've got 9.9 of a kilo to turn it. It's not much. 0.9 of a kilo. To me it doesn't seem much at all. That seems beautiful. It's really nice. And also I got my rubber mallet, tapped that down, tapped the casings, made sure everything was right, and it feels just right. It really does. So let's take that bearing, let's take this cover off again, put the smallest shim in. Where is it gone? Oh, it's here. Yeah, so let's take this off and see what we get. It's a long job building these bloody things up, isn't it? Right, take the pins out with the dowels. Now this is how the dowel pins should fit. Should be able to take them out like that, look. Sliding fit, nice and slidey. Right, we'll lift that off. Hopefully the bearing stays there. Well, no it didn't, it stayed in there. So I'm going to swap this out with the original shim in. And we're going to put the thinnest shim in and see what happens to the settings. Oop. Doesn't that always happen? Isn't that always the case? There. We'll put the dowels back in. Bolts back in. Right. How does that feel now? Well, it feels a lot looser. But if you put our string round, let's see what happens. It should be less. Knowing my look, oh, it's gone to sleep again. 8, 9. Oops, nearly fell off my box there. But let's go and have a look now at our main shaft and see how much it's moved. Not the main shaft, the input shaft. Or primary motion shaft as I should call it. So I'll set that to 0. Again, this is in thousandths of an inch because this is my metric one, doesn't work very well. So you can see we can get almost 10,000ths of an inch on that. So I'm going to leave the shim out. I'm just going to leave it as it was with the original bearings. Now I have seen these flopping around all over the place. It's supported by the pinion shaft supported by the bearing in the flywheel, but I think you see it always goes back to 0. I think that's okay, that's acceptable, so you could get away with that. But as for putting a dial gauge on here and working it up and down, I don't think you'll feel that. I honestly don't think it'll come up with anything. Interesting, isn't it? So that was a nice experiment, wasn't it? Now, this leads us on to a question I got on an email this morning. It was about a chap who'd put a rebuilt gearbox into his Defender with a heavy duty clutch and one of my clutch forks which he'd already been in before, and he liked that. He said it was working well. I'll put his name at the bottom here and then you can see I'm not making it up. But he said, he sent me a video, that was right, he sent me a video of his gearbox chattering like crazy when he'd put it all together. What was it? Well, it's quite easy because I've seen this happen many times before. A lot of people go for heavy duty, got to be heavy duty. Well, heavy duty doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to be, you know, very good. In his instance, he said he got it from a Britpart heavy duty clutch. Now, let me explain what the difference is. Ooh, I'm holding onto that shaft right like a phallic symbol. Oh, shouldn't do that either. What's happening is the springs in the heavy duty clutch are too stiff. They're too heavy. And that means instead of the clutch absorbing the pulses of the diesel engine, that's now been rock solid, and it's transferring the vibration all the way to the gearbox, and it's chattering the gears inside. What's the fix? Well, I always fitted Valeo heavy duty clutches. What's the difference? Well, it's just a big difference. The only difference is the difference diameter. That's all. The friction plate is a bigger diameter. There's no difference about heavy duty anything. It's just got a bigger surface area. And I had, you know, a lot of good results with Valeo clutches over the years, and that's all I ever fitted. I was always a bit suspect about Britpart stuff because it's all made in China. But, well, my do Valeo stuff's now made in Turkey, I do believe. But anyway, that was a solution, to change the plate to a heavy duty Valeo plate, and that's it. It's nothing to do with clamping pressure or anything like that. But I've got to mention this too. Ooh, stop touching my shaft. When you get things like a HS 2.8, you know, these bigger 300 TDI engines, when they get a few miles on them, they do tend to slip sometimes. The clutches tend to slip because there's too much low down torque on them, and it overrides the clamping pressure. And sometimes then you need a heavier clamping pressure spring. You know the diaphragm spring that's in your cover? You need a heavier spring to clamp it all together. So just watch that if you're putting a HS 2.8 in. I had a few of them go like that. And after a few years, once the original heavy duty clutch had worn down a little bit, they were just slipping. So we used to get, what did we used to do? I think M&D Engineering did a heavier clutch plate, like a clutch cover, but I think it was a bit too heavy. So I think we got some guys in Montreal to work out which ones we wanted. And it was only a few pounds more pressure, but it did stop the slipping. All right. So there's something to watch if you're putting more power through your engine. The regular clutches can't really take it. Right, that's enough for me. It's Friday afternoon. I think what I'll do... Oh, I've been changing tyres and doing all sorts this afternoon. I think what I'll do is I'll have the rest of the day off, seeing it's 2 o'clock. And we'll put this together tomorrow. Because now we know what the shims are like, we can flip this the other way around. So this is at the bottom, and then we can start to build this gearbox up. Now, I might film it. The problem with filming stuff is when I'm on a roll, I'll just breeze through things and get things done. But when you stop, start doing filming, it drags on. I mean, I started doing this video at 9:30 this morning. Shows you how long it takes, eh? Right, see ya. I'm going to jump down this hole.